Good morning and welcome to Frontiers of Knowledge segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. What's next? Well, you are aware that our scientists, innovators, other any representation of human ingenuity is progressing day by day. So what's next is always there. And especially when the infrastructure is concerned. There was a time when ordinary mud roads were required, then the metal roads, then the highways and the byways, and then the superhighways. Then there came the airports and the seaports. Now you'll be asking me, what's this very port? Are you aware that flying taxis are going to invade this world in a few years? Already Dubai has air taxis, and the flying cars which are likely to be in the market in 2027, they are inching towards takeoff. These flying taxis, flying cars. Time is not far off when they'll be there. But have you ever thought where would they land? You fly to a crowded city. You have to go to the business center. Where do you land? Where do you park them? So, what we need for that is vertiport. This is a new one, vertical port. The vertical vehicles landing and taking up VTOL vehicles. Now, this concept of a potential vertiport or a landing site cum parking site for autonomous flying cars is what is required. But are we building them? We are aware that the skies would soon be filled with the new birds, and these birds would be electric, autonomous cars. And then, before it's too late, they'll be there. And there'll be accidents galore because they need a place to take off, they need a place to land, they need a place to recharge. And hence there has been a report prepared by the scientists under FAA, Federal Aviation Authority of USA. Very innovative, very imaginative, and very pertinent. And they underlie the necessity, the importance, and the imperative need of these. So these transportation hubs, vertiports, could become critical parts of the urban or regional mobility ecosystem. They will be the major place for transportation, and no infrastructure of any city, any locality, any community would be complete without having vertiport. Because the whole idea of a flying car coming down, taking off, getting recharged in the way, is that they should be easily accessible. If you have to park them 5 kilometers away or 10 kilometers away, then where's the need? Because then you need some other transport. So these ecosystems, the new transport ecosystem, mobility ecosystem needs vertiports. And then there are certain requirements for that. They need fast linkages to the business center, the office centers, to the shopping malls. You come, land, and immediately you go to the shopping mall or you go to the office or whatever. So this is a convenient air travel to other forms of transit, but it will be much more faster. And this vertiport would have to be linked with airports. You are flying from, say, to far off place, so you land your car in the vertiport, rush to the aircraft, right. Similarly, they'll have to be very conveniently located near buses, ride-hailing networks, and anything, in fact, a long distance journey would have to be broken up first. So what we need is going to be multimodal transport system. Now the Federal Aviation Administration has released a new design guidelines for vertiports. And I'm amazed that no architect, no town planner, no regional planner is talking of the urgent need of these vertiports, which are going to create a problem if they are not set up. And looking at the need, as I said, within a couple of days, by 2027 they'll be available. We need to build them today. The requirements for a vertiport have to be that these sites have to be safe, they have to be well lit, well marked, and that they do have the support necessary for the infrastructure needs like recharging stations. Then connectivity to the other places. I fully agree that FAA has yet to certify these low altitude aircraft for the flight because the routes for the flying cars would be different than the aircraft. They will be flying, say, 30 meters above, 40 meters above the road surface, 50 meters above. Not 1,000 meters, not 2,000 meters. But again, their routes will have to be there that when a plane is taking off or coming down, they don't collide. So these low altitude aircraft have to land, and it has to be done in the safest possible manner. At the same time, more convenient manner. Now, the Genesis vertiport design would help airport owners, operators, and infrastructure developers. And FAA report, when I studied it, very clearly says that they have to be built now before they are launched in the market. Because once the people buy it, then they're going to use it. And if they don't have the proper size to land, they might land on the rooftops and then build step ladders down and ask the owners to build an elevator up to the rooftop. But how many people will be able to land there? So there are 101 things to be considered. And that is the tragedy of the mankind. We always think of the product, but never how to utilize it properly. That's why when the bicycles came, we worry back. People were afraid of them. Oh, they'll cause accidents. And the people had accidents. When the cars died, the same thing was there. Even when the horses and the buggies came into picture, this was there. Because we always go for the product and the infrastructure requirement later on. That is putting the cart before the horse. But that's what human nature is. Now, where it stands, what's the status? Manufacturers of the electrical vertical takeoff vehicle, which ordinary language we call eVTOL, that's electrical vertical takeoff landing aircraft, which you can call flying car. They are giant passenger drones basically. And if you will, they are already laying plans to begin operations. And amazingly, I came to understand just yesterday that in 2024, these flying cars would be available, but they will not be self-flying. They'll be having a pilot on board. So they'll be taxis with a cab driver, but flying one. Unlike Dubai, which has already self-driving or self-piloting taxis. Now, going back this study, because they are aware that their vehicles would not take off until the infrastructure is there. So they have released a roadmap I love this roadmap. It's beautiful. And the roadmap shows that it aims to integrate pilot air taxis in the national airspace by the year 2030, about 7 years later. But then, if this process had started 2 years back, then it would have been in time. But we always, as I said, think first of the product and then the utilization. However, Germany is going much ahead. Germany, Lilium, plans to open its first vertiport near Orlando by 2025. So, the first vertiport would be possibly be in Orlando. I don't know whether Canada would be strong enough or whether India would be. Because let me tell you, India has the largest number of people who are going to be billionaires in the next couple of years. So with that sort of a thing, and they have money surplus to buy. Then, Joby Aviation and Archer Aviation are partnered with Reef. Reef is USA's largest parking management company, and they are planning to create landing sites atop existing parking garage. So where the parking is there, if the garage is there, the top can be used. A good idea, because parking spaces are always near the office centers, near the shopping centers, and they can be, being well placed, they can be utilized. But what they are saying is that our country is stepping into a new era of aviation, as a matter of the whole world, not one country. We are entering a new era of aviation. These vertiports designs provide the foundation needed to begin safely building infrastructure in this new era. I had a talk with FAA Associate Administrator of Airports, Senator Griffin. And Griffin was very clear. She very clearly said that our problem is that we need integrated multimodal system. So we need an authority which supervises or controls the infrastructure both of the aviation and the ground one. At present there are two different authorities. Now what guidelines have said that the vertiports have to have certain standard dimensions. They have to have certain lighting and signage. The smallest vertiport would be 100 by 100 feet, a little bigger than 3 tennis courts, and with a 48 by 48 feet landing pad in the middle. So in the middle, 40 by 40, 48 by 48 would be landing pad. Total is 100 by 100. And this shall be marked by a dedicated crosshair symbol identifying it as a vertiport. So they land there and then they remain on the site. Land, drive to this site, park them there. So this way, small 100 by 100 plots should be converted into vertiports. The guidelines also dictate that the airspace required for approach and departure has to be there, and they stipulated that a vertiport must be 500 to 700 feet away from the existing commercial runways. So if it's near the airport, it should be about 500 to 700 feet away from the existing runway. It also spells out rooftop requirements for electrical vertiports. You know, we have said that already they are talking to the largest place. Now, flashback is very important. New York Airways briefly offered helicopter service to the top of Big Apple's Pan Am building. They call it MetLife building now. But there was a fatal crash and they stopped. Would we see the clashes again? Now what we have got to see is not clear who would pay for the vertiports. Would the municipalities pay? Would the contractors pay and then they charge it, like the toll taxes? But it has not been decided. The funding issue is very important. It is being heavily debated at the federal, state, and the provincial and the city level. The bottom line is that the far-fetched dreams like flying cars are taking off. They are becoming a reality thanks to the technology advancement and huge capital investment. So the next question is very important. Where do they land? Vertiports. And they need to be built today. Any delay? Well, you know what happens then. And before I end, I have very interesting information to share with you. We live in this earth. We think it's habitable. Do you know that there are places which are better places to live than the earth is? I hope somebody doesn't start the immigration over there. Normally people think that the water is the most important. Yes, it is important. But the scientists have now identified 2 planets, and they call these planets super Earth. The temperature in those places is average 77 degrees Celsius, beautiful. And there's a life on the sea floor in those planets. So the super Earths can and do offer a better habitable environment than the Earth does. One of the planet's superbirds is 70% larger than the Earth, and it may be home to a deep ocean. So, time is not far out when the immigration would not be to the different countries, but it might be to a different planet called the super Earth. Are you waiting for that? Let's see what happens. So what next? Vertiports or the super Earth? Think about it. Thank you.